Zelvar's night glowed with the light of 3 silver moons. Naira crouched in the thick, flowering moss, her violet eyes scanning the forest clearing where a strange creature moved awkwardly through the foliage. He was tall and slender, his skin a pale tan compared to her own shimmering lavender tone. Tufts of dark hair curled atop his head like soft moss, and he clutched a glowing orb that blinked rhythmically. Naira had never seen a being like this one, not in the spirit pools of memory, nor in the histories whispered by the wind-blessed elders. She stepped from the shadow of the trees, her long cerulean cloak trailing behind her. Eli froze, the orb flickered red. Hello," he said, voice uncertain. His words meant nothing to Naira, but she felt no hostility from him. Only surprise, perhaps a hint of wonder. She reached out her hand, fingers glowing faintly with psychic warmth. "You are lost," she said in her native tongue, knowing he wouldn't understand, but needing to say it anyway. Eli blinked. "I'm Eli, I crash-landed, ship's toast, looking for shelter." His voice was music, not like the harmonized thoughts of her kind, but something raw and beautiful. He tapped his chest. "Eli," he repeated, then pointed to her. "You." "Naira," she answered slowly. He smiled, not the polite smile of her people, transmitted through emotional pulses, but a full facial expression that changed his whole energy. He held out his hand. Naira stared at it. Was it a challenge, a ritual? Eli noticed her hesitation and slowly extended it further. "Handshake, it's just greeting." She stepped closer and reached for his hand, their skin meeting like day touching night. A jolt of warmth traveled through her. Eli's smile widened. That was how it began. Eli followed Naira through the soft, luminescent undergrowth, their path lit by the glowing spores that floated through the air like fireflies. "This place is incredible," he murmured, even though she couldn't understand. Naira led him to a large tree whose roots formed a natural shelter. She gestured for him to sit. He obeyed, watching her as she sat opposite him, folding her legs beneath her flowing robes. She reached into her satchel and offered him a fruit the color of midnight. He sniffed it, then bit. "Sweet," he said, giving a thumbs up. She mimicked his gesture, then pointed to the sky. "Zelvar," she said. Eli repeated it. "Zelvar, your world, it's beautiful." Naira cocked her head. Something about the way he spoke, the way he looked at her, stirred unfamiliar feelings in her chest, fluttering, unstable. Later, as they sat in silence under the stars, she gently pressed her palm to his forehead. A silent connection, just a whisper of thought. He gasped, "You can't hear me." Her eyes widened. "Yes," she said softly in his mind. "Only when you are still, only when you let me in." Eli touched her wrist. "That's amazing." Naira blinked slowly. The contact lingered. So strange, she thought his warmth doesn't need words. And for the first time in her life, she wondered what it meant to truly know someone, not just through thought, but through presence. It happened after the rain. Eli and Naira had spent the afternoon in silence, sheltering beneath the wide leaves of a blooming tarantha tree. The petals shimmered like wet crystal, and the air was warm with the scent of nectar. Eli had carved a piece of wood into the shape of a leaf and given it to her, saying it was a gift. "Why?" Naira had asked, truly puzzled. "Because I like you," Eli said simply. She didn't know what to say. Liking in her world was not a gesture but a bond, an echo shared through memory and mind. As twilight approached, Naira pressed her fingers gently to Eli's temple again. Their thoughts joined briefly, her presence flowing over his. "You are restless," she said. "Because I feel something I can't explain," he murmured aloud. Then in the quiet space between breaths, Eli leaned forward and pressed his lips to hers. Naira's eyes widened. Her body went still as stone. The contact was brief, just the barest touch of warmth, but it echoed through her like a rippling pond. When Eli pulled back, he saw confusion painted across her features. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "It's a human thing, a kiss, when we care for someone." Naira turned her head away. "A ritual for liking." "No, not a ritual, more like a feeling. It's how we show affection, love sometimes." She stood and walked a few steps into the moss, her mind a swirl of color and emotion. Later, she left Eli asleep under the glowing tree and went to the spirit pool of her ancestors. It was a shimmering lake where memories floated like light. She sat on the stone edge and whispered, What is love to humans? The pool did not answer, but images formed. Pairs of beings, human and alien, old and young, sharing touches, laughter, weeping together. Naira watched and watched. Some held hands, others danced, many kissed, yet none of it made clear why. She touched her own lips. What had she missed? What meaning did her kind not possess? In the days that followed, she avoided the subject. But Eli remained gentle, patient. He never tried to kiss her again, but his eyes often lingered on hers with something soft and uncertain. I don't understand, she finally confessed one evening. Your kiss, it made no thought, no bond, only feeling, and I don't know what to do with that. Eli reached for her hand, slow and steady. You don't have to understand. I just wanted you to know how I felt. And if I cannot feel it the same way. He smiled sadly. Then we learned together. Naira looked at his hand in hers and wondered. Maybe human love was not something to be understood, but something to be experienced, one heartbeat at a time. Eli was determined to help Naira understand him. He had no translator, no tech to rely on, only gestures and patience. But Naira absorbed everything like moonlight soaking into the moss. This is a hug, he said one morning, demonstrating by wrapping his arms around himself. It means comfort, closeness, safety. Naira nodded slowly, then walked up to a tree and hugged it. Then a rock, then a very confused animal with too many eyes. Eli laughed. Not quite, it's for people, for someone you care about. She blinked at him, then walked straight into his arms. He froze, surprised, but held her gently. Yes, he whispered, like that. Naira stepped back, visibly analyzing the sensation. Hug, she repeated aloud, strange, soft. Next came touch. Eli explained how humans sometimes hold hands to show affection. Naira tried it while they walked, grasping his hand with fingers too strong and slightly too cold. Eli didn't mind. We also flirt, he tried explaining, to show interest. She squinted, flirt. Compliments, playful talk, eye contact, it's complicated. Naira spent the rest of the day giving him strange compliments. Your ears are very round, and your walk is irregular but charming. Eli laughed until he couldn't breathe. She tilted her head, unsure if she'd succeeded or failed. At night, they lay beneath the moons again. Naira gently placed her hand on his chest. Your heart, it is loud, she said. Because you're near, Eli replied, not thinking. She didn't respond, only stared at him as if she could see the meaning but not yet grasp it. In her mind, affection had always been about connection through thought, through shared memories. But Eli offered warmth in form, in gesture, in voice. It made no sense. And yet, every new lesson made her want to learn more. The storm arrived like a beast awoken. The skies of Zelvar turned violet black, and bolts of pale green lightning forked across the sky. Winds howled through the treetops, and glowing spores scattered like frightened stars. Eli grabbed Naira's wrist. This way, he shouted, even though she couldn't fully understand. The urgency in his voice was enough. They dashed through the downpour until they found a root cave, an ancient hollow formed by the intertwining trunks of the elder trees. They slipped inside, drenched and breathless. Naira touched the damp floor with her fingers. Safe, she said. Eli collapsed onto the mossy floor, chest rising and falling. Barely. Thunder cracked overhead. The storm made speech difficult, so they sat in silence, watching as the world outside was swallowed by rain. Inside the cave, the atmosphere was thick with unsaid thoughts. The glow of bioluminescent vines cast soft blue light across Eli's face. Naira studied him, soaked, tired, yet when he looked at her, his eyes still held warmth. I am afraid, Naira admitted. Eli looked over. Why, the storm will pass. Not storm, she whispered. This, what you feel, your kiss, I do not know what to do. Eli sat up slowly. Naira, it's okay, you don't have to do anything. I know this is alien to you. Yes, she nodded. You show love in ways I do not feel. I try, but it feels like copying. Eli reached out and gently touched her hand. Then let's not copy, let's just be here, you and me. She looked at their joined hands. On Zelvar, love is bond of thought, shared past. We become known, but you kiss me, feel warm, and yet, I cannot see your memory, only your breath, your heartbeat. Eli chuckled softly. Yeah, that's how it works for us. It's messy, not always clear, but it's real. She leaned in slightly. You said you felt something you could not explain. Why? His voice grew softer. Because I've lost people before, people I loved, and when I met you, you reminded me that it's okay to feel again, even if we don't understand it fully. Naira let silence settle between them again. Outside, the storm began to fade, the thunder distant now. I want to try, she said at last. Try what? To feel this human way, to learn not just with mind but with heart, to not understand, and still care. Eli smiled. It was small but genuine. That's all I've ever wanted. They lay side by side on the moss, not touching, just listening to each other's breath. The storm passed, but something else stayed, a shared stillness, a step toward connection. Naira didn't need to read Eli's thoughts to know. He was hers, and she was beginning to want to be his. The morning after the storm, sunlight spilled across the canopy in golden rays. Droplets of water clung to every leaf and petal, casting sparkles over the recovering forest. Inside the root cave, Eli stirred and found Naira already awake, sitting cross-legged, her hands resting lightly on her knees. She was humming, not through the mind link but aloud, soft, low notes that trembled like mist. Eli listened, mesmerized. Is that a song? He asked. Naira nodded. It came in sleep. I do not know the words, just feeling. That's music, Eli said, voice still raspy from rest. It's like love, it doesn't need translation. She turned to him. I want to stay here with you. I have asked the roots and they said yes. Eli blinked. The roots said yes. They remember everything, she replied solemnly. And they remember you, now they remember us. In the days that followed, Eli worked with his hands while Naira taught him how to speak with the plants and hear the history etched into the forest. She couldn't teach him telepathy, but she didn't need to anymore. Instead of grand gestures, she began to show affection in her own ways, weaving moss blankets, leaving glowing stones in his path, watching him with a steady gaze that warmed him more than any words could. And Eli, in turn, learned how to love her without expectation. He read to her by the fire, sketched her features with reverence, and held her hand not to explain anything, but just to be near. One night, as they lay side by side on a bed of flowered moss, Naira whispered, "Your kiss!" It scared me, but now it calls me. Eli said nothing, only touched her cheek. She kissed him this time, tentative, still learning. Not to mimic, not to please, but because she chose to. In that moment, she didn't understand everything about love, but she understood enough. It wasn't something to solve, it was something to give. Later, beneath Zelvar's moons, she said, Your love is not mine, but we can grow something new, something both. Eli nodded, smiling, something ours. And so they did, two souls from two worlds, weaving a language of love with no grammar, no rules, only care. On Zelvar, the roots still remember. And now they remember love.